Today, we actually have a special guest host in the building with me today. He goes by the name of Mr. Power Universe. And just in case you don't know who he is extremely opinionated. He has some takes that I cannot get jiggy with,
Oh
but,
shit.
and we'll get into some of them later. But I value his opinion and I like that he is a staunch advocate for the shows and he just wants to see the best story told. And that is the reason why I think he's the best person to co host the very first episode of Raising Kanan of season 4, episode 401, titled Gangsters Don't Die. But what do? They get chubby and they move to Miami. Who knows what song that's from?
That's very true.
Yes. But
Mhm.
they this episode was written by Sasha Penn and Albert Minnis. Now, Albert has been writing for Power for a very long time, and obviously, Sasha Penn is the creator of the show, and he was a contributing factor in the original iteration of Power. And it is so great to have him write the first episode for us again, because we always know that all of the details are going to be stitched in. And that is why I like when Sasha is at the helm of writing a show or creating a show or writing an episode. He always puts an exclamation mark on top. Now, there is some business that I want to take care of before we start reviewing the show. I know we're all excited, but you can find us on YouTube. Now, Chronicles of Power doesn't have a separate YouTube page. Maybe I'll do that one day down the line, right? Like maybe we will consider doing that. But for right now, you can find us at PVTLSTD on YouTube. All of the interviews are there. You'll see recaps there. You'll see clips there. You'll see tons of content there, in addition to everything else that we do over there. There's music, sports, culture, entertainment. You'll see other interviews there from rap artists, music artists, and influencers that we are in contact with. So, if you're looking for us, you can find us on YouTube, and obviously, you can find us on the socials at Chronicles of Power. Now, there is a little bit of news to get out of the way, right? Because there we've been gone for a long time, and I do want to highlight some things that are going on within the Power universe. So, first of all, I want to clap it up for Mr. Michael Rainey Jr.
Hey.
NAACP recipient, right? So he
Yep.
has won an award, and I'm super duper happy for him. He's been on the series for 10 plus years, and he is so deserving of any accolades and praise that he receives, and I'm really really happy for him. But in a bit of sour news, 50 Cent is still on a tirade against those people at BMF. I I'm glad you laughed because this is actually pretty serious. Because quite recently, I want to say yesterday or the day before yesterday, and probably, by the time you're hearing this recording, it will probably be up to a week that this happened already. But he recently posted an AI video of his face imposed on Loaded Lux's body and from a very famous Loaded Lux battle. And in the battle, Loaded Lux is talking to somebody about what your father did and how you're trying to steer them right. And every chance that 50 gets, he's going to continue to stick it to Lil Meech. So I don't know if we're ever going to see BMF again. It doesn't really look like it. I know that the fourth season has already been shot. They already filmed that. They were filming that from when the original, when season 3 was airing. So it's already in the can. Will we ever see it? Who knows? I don't really know what type of power 50 still yields at Stars, considering the split between Stars and Lionsgate. So it remains to be seen if we ever even see the fourth season. But I know for sure that there's probably no spinoff anymore because remember, there was an announcement made about BMF Immortals. You
Mhm.
remember that?
Yeah.
How'd you feel about that?
I didn't want it, man. I didn't want it. I'm not gonna lie. They can keep that.
I agree. I didn't need a
Yeah.
BMF spinoff, especially because like if we know that the main characters were imprisoned, what else do I need to see from them. And I feel like they were already kind of stretching the storyline out a little bit, even up until the third season. I was surprised they even got a fourth season.
Me
It,
too. I think everybody was surprised.
I think everyone was surprised.
Yeah.
Um, but 50 Cent, we try not to say like everyone. There was a skit by Mr. Commodore last week where he's like, "Don't say his name," and that is the truest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, just don't. If you have anything negative to say, just leave it out of there.
Say it.
Um, uh, one other little tidbit of news. It feels obnoxious to say this, but last night I did a live with the Shade Room, and we did it for the new season of Raising Kanan. So if you guys get a chance, please go check that out. Oh, thank you. Please go check it out. I actually do a brief recap of seasons 1, 2, and 3, and we talk about some other topics too. It was challenging putting all of that information into like 5 minutes, but I tried as best as I can. I know there were some details that I left out, but it wasn't really major plot points. But you get the gist of what was happening throughout season 1, 2, and 3. And now that we're back in season 4 and in episode 1, here's my question to you, Mr. Power Universe.
Mhm.
Tell me 3 things that you liked about this episode. Let's start it off on a positive note.
Ooh, okay. Three things I liked about this episode. Well, I
Hmm.
could tell off rip that they were trying to definitely tell a story. They
Hmm.
weren't trying to just kind of rush into the action and everything. So I like that. I like the kind of them showing what happened with Unique and everything,
Hmm.
because a lot of people already kind of felt like it was unrealistic that he's alive to begin with. So to show how everything happened with early Tyler, I thought that was good. Um, and I like the whole different like kind of perspective thing where they kind of showed things from everyone's perspective with Jukebox and her talking to that white dude, Nicole's dad, and so I like that too. And I just like the relationship between Rock and Kanan, man. It's just always kind of interesting to see them go at it. That's always going to be the best aspect of the show.
I think so. So one more. You gave me two.
Well, two, oh yeah, Marvin putting hands on that. That
On Tommaso.
yeah, anytime Marvin gets violent, I'm locked in
Yeah,
because he's
he's
great.
definitely a fan fave.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how they're going to develop his story going forward, because he sometimes that he's there to make us laugh. Like it's very pointed what they try to do with him. Like even if it's
Mhm.
something simple, there's supposed to be like a little key when we see him on screen. And we normally get our lighter moments with him, even though he's dealing with very heavy subjects. Like I mean, he has to go straighten somebody out, so it's not a
Yep.
laughing matter. But there's always going to be a little bit of comic relief once we see him on the screen. And every time I see him, I'm just, like, I know that I can exhale a little bit because I know, like, okay, he's going to do something serious, but at least we'll get to
Yeah.
laugh about it at the end of it. All right. So I'm scared to ask you this question. Can you tell?
Why? Ain't no need for that.
Yeah. Tell me 3 things that you weren't too fond of with this episode.
Ooh. Okay. First off, the whole Rock being pregnant thing, I didn't like that. I didn't really like that. I felt like it was unnecessary because like they keep repeating these baby storylines in Power, and no one ever actually has a baby. So it's like it just feels repetitive. And then her getting the abortion, and then her like not telling anyone about it. I felt like it was that part of the storytelling was not needed. Um, I would say I just wanted to see more interaction between like Marvin and everybody else. I kind of feel like he's kind of drifted a little bit into like this whole Stefano storyline and like that. Yeah, I need less of that. More interactions with the family, with Marvin and the family, and the
Mhm.
whole jukebox thing. Like her going to the military. Like we know that's not gonna happen. She becomes a cop. So I don't understand why they're kind of teasing that. You know?
Um, hmm. I think I may feel a little bit differently about that. So you said you didn't like the abortion storyline.
Yeah.
You didn't like Marvin being melded into Stefano
Yeah.
storyline, and you don't like the army play that's coming with Jukebox.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, I have some rebuttals there, but I'll give you three things that I liked first, and then I'll give three challenges that I may see. It's not that I necessarily didn't like them; it's just that some things kind of fall flat. Um, so three things that I liked. I like that we got to know the grandmother more.
Mm.
I like that her lines in her scene with Kanan when they're talking about her grandfather Elijah, it just reminds me of my own family, right? Because there's a way how they move within my family, whereas, oh, I'm only telling you this. Only
Mm.
you are privy to this information. Oh, I'm sick. I don't want anybody else to know. Like, I've literally gone through that in my own family. Like, I remember finding out that my grandmother had, like, I didn't know at the time. I guess I was too little to even conceptualize it, but I was too little to understand what diabetes was. And I think she had like a she had like an open sore on her foot, and I was the only person that saw it, and she made me not tell like my mom or my grandfather or my aunts. And then when they found out about it, do you know how much trouble I got in? They was like, "So you know, and you didn't tell
Yeah.
us." I'm like, "I was 7. I
Yeah.
didn't know what it was. She just told me to put a band, help her put the bandage on." But I feel like that happens in a lot of Black families, right? Whereas we aren't as open with, well, I don't know if I can just say just Black families, but I know that this is a theme that I've known that happens along all the Black families that I know. So maybe this is just anecdotal evidence, but we aren't one to necessarily tell everyone, hey, my grandfather has cancer. My grandfather didn't even tell us that he had cancer. My grandmother didn't even want to tell us that she had diabetes because, like his grandmother said, I don't want everybody else making it about them, or the other one is fussing over me and doing things they wouldn't normally do, which is why
Yep.
I feel like she didn't want to tell Rock and Marvin and Lou, because she wants them to come to her on their own accord and
Mm.
not coming to her out of sympathy. And that is something that I related to in that scene, because they didn't want people to feel sorry for them. They're just like, hey, if you normally gonna come here, you normally come to visit me, that's when you do it. So I actually really liked that scene. And then I liked how we got to see everyone's point of view about the grandfather. I really liked the storytelling there. I like that Lou described him as a creative, as someone who was good with his hands, and he talked about his own experience with him. Same thing with Marvin. Marvin is like, hey, he was great. Do you know what it's like to see him put somebody else on the back? And I loved him,
Yep.
but that's why I'm so disappointed in him. And I think a lot of us can probably, whether our parents are alive or deceased, like we can relate to that, because you're not going to like your parents at every move, every decision that they make. And I think that's one of the reasons why they had that conversation with Kanan, for him to see that you're not going to like all of the decisions that your mother makes, but just remember that she loves you and you should love her too. But she then comes over the top and says, and this was another thing that I liked, she brought it all home and says, I love you enough for both of us, pretty much. You
Yep.
may not like me right now, but and you may even hate me, but I still love you. It doesn't even matter. You don't have to love me for me to love you. And I feel like that is the whole theme of their story arc at this point, because her love, she shows it in such an aggressive manner, whereas it's, I'm going to do this and you can ask questions later and you may or may not get an answer after. And that's probably one of the reasons why I like that character, and why I think that it's necessary for TV. Now, three things that I didn't like. So you mean to tell me This whole time we was watching this show, Unique was just sitting in the shadows, just in a car, just in the background, just saw Juliana and his brother walking out of his girl house,
Yeah.
just waiting outside of the warehouse. Now remember, when they walked up to the warehouse, did we see a car when they was walking by? So you remember that? I was like, so he was just sitting there in the corner, and then he walks in after they walk out with a bag of $500,000. What?
Yeah, man.
To be fair, I was prepped. I was prepped that this was going to happen. Like he didn't explicitly tell me this, but we interviewed Sasha Penn after the season finale of season 3, and he
Mm.
says you'll find out what Unique was doing throughout all of that time. And I was like, well, I hope so, considering he came back alive with a gash in his head.
Yep.
Okay, that was one thing I didn't like, or that I think was just like made me do the Scooby Doo face. And here come my cats. But the next thing was Unique got beat to a bloody pulp, right? And then he got kicked down a hill. Now, me, I was on the Stairmaster for 30 minutes every day for the past, I want to say, I've been going to the gym regularly for the past 2 weeks. I can barely make it up my steps to get to my bedroom. And you mean to tell me Unique Unique just got beat with a rod, with an iron rod, kicked down a hill, and just was able to get up like this? Just get up and crawl to a phone
Yep.
booth? And where the fuck that phone booth came from?
Yeah, bro. Like what? You in the
Wait,
middle of nowhere.
son. Then on top of it, okay, so there used to be phone booths all over, right? But he looked like he was in a secluded area. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give them, I'm gonna give them a little wiggle room there, right? How he knew where he was at? Huh? How did Unique know what street he was on? Ain't no street signs in the woods. How
Very
did
true.
early? How did early come get him from the payphone? Tell me. I
Yep.
just need some guesses here. But like I do with ghosts, I'm gonna give Raising Canaan some grace, because every time things used to happen in ghosts, I'd be like, I know it's power. I'm gonna give them some room here to expand on the story. I'm not gonna go too crazy with this. I'm gonna use my imagination here. He telepathically told Early where he was at. They went back in time. They came to the future and got a GPS, and he figured out where he was at, and he sent him his coordinates. But those were three things that made me go, I don't really know about that. But I overall, I actually liked the episode. But what I want to tell people is, please do not start with, oh, the episode was trash. I didn't like it.
Already
Y'all know
seen
it's episode 1. What y'all was expecting?
Yeah.
What? They have to set it up. First of all, they couldn't explain everything that happened with Unique in episode 10, because that was the big surprise. So now they have to do the groundwork and laying out the story for us for what was happening with Unique. Even if I may have my gripes with how it happened, like they still have to do it. They're not going to shoot Uncle Marvin in episode 1. You're not going to get this big this big grand finale in the opening episode. Remember, they're still laying the groundwork, because remember, Sasha Penn, what does he do? He tells stories, and he is going to build a foundation, and he's going to
Mhm.
keep building until he gets into the top floor. Now, it's similar. I'll say that this episode is similar to every other season opener. The only difference with this episode is that I think last year, was it episode 1 that Bert got killed?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it might have been. Yeah.
Yeah, that I think that's the first time that we've ever seen something so blatant like that. But
Yeah.
they couldn't do it in this one because I'm holding my tongue with something. They couldn't do it in this one
Nah,
because
what?
I'm gonna say it. Hold on. They couldn't do it with this one because obviously what we just said. I'm just gonna reiterate. They had to lay the groundwork for what happened with Unique. We got to get all of that backstory out the way so that we can keep moving to progress the story forward. Because remember, we found out that Unique, or excuse me, that Joey Badass reneged on his initial dealing that he needed to go on tour, that he needed to focus on his music. He says, "Hey, write me back into the show." And Sasha Penn obliged. They wrote him back in. So now we have to reconfigure the scripts that they had for season 4. And that is why we have to do the backstory of what happened to him, where he was, and how he was laying in wait this entire time. Now, do you want to add anything before I go on to my next point?
Nah, nah. I think you hit everything.
Alrighty. So, question:
Yeah.
what the heck was happening with Famous in this episode? Was that even Famous?
I don't even think we saw Famous. You know what I
They
kind of
showed.
noticed?
Sorry, go
That
ahead.
I feel like this cast is a lot bigger now. Like I feel like it's just more people, and I feel like it's just less screen time for Famous. I think we're gonna see him eventually, but I feel like there's other people that have kind of hit the main cast now. Like you got Snaps and Pop, you got Stefano. I feel like there's not a lot of space for Famous.
Huh? Why do you feel there isn't space for him? There's always space for his best friend.
I feel like he's one of those characters that like he could get taken out. You know, like they might want to kill him off to kind of whether it's set Kanan off or to kind of set a new storyline going. Because I mean he's in prison right now. How's that gonna go for him?
Yeah, but they did show him in the episode because remember we go back 3 months in
Oh, you
the
talking about? Oh, you talking about in the flashback? Yeah,
right in the
yeah, yeah,
flashback. So we
yeah.
kind of see him in the flashback, but we kind of don't. It's
No,
like
yeah.
is was that a body double?
I think it was him. I think it was him.
I
You
think
think
it's
is it a
so.
stunt double?
It looked a little weird to me. I can't wait to have them on the show. They're probably not even going to answer me, but I'm still going to ask anyway. But it looked like it looked like a body double because the way how they did the shot, it was just the back of his head that we saw. There was one frontal shot, but it looked like an old shot from the old episode, from the episode
Mm,
10. So that's how
yeah,
I was like, is he even in it? And the reason why I asked this question is because I recently put out like a short reel after I watched the trailer. I'm like, where is Famous? Because they didn't tag him in any of the promo for the shows. He hasn't been doing any promo, no interviews, no nothing. And I'm not saying that he's one to have been doing a whole bunch during their press runs in prior seasons, but we have
mhm.
seen him. I remember Business doing an interview with him, right? And I saw him at the premiere last year. What happened? So I do kind of question, and then like the voice, it something seemed weird in that scene when I looked at it. So and I was just checking to see maybe I'm bugging, maybe I'm reading into it a little too much, but I was wondering to see if you had any of those same thoughts too. But you're telling me, hey, it's okay for them to write him out because there's no use for him.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't really notice what you just said when I was actually watching. I was like, I didn't really peep that, but I have noticed how they haven't had him in anything. Like I didn't even see him do an Instagram post of him filming nothing. So I don't know if there's always something behind the scenes that we don't know. I feel like eventually it's gonna come out, but right now we're kind of in the dark.
I saw someone write in the comments something that happened with him. I won't repeat it because I don't know how true it is. I mean, I've heard things in the background of stuff that may be happening with him, and I've seen him in person and interacted with him. Um, but I'll keep that interaction to myself. But I hope everything's okay, and I hope he's still on the show and he's able to finish out his character in a good way because I thought that Famous was a good character. He like Uncle Marvin had good comic relief and they brought something to the story that I believe was worthy. But let's let's keep going throughout the
Preach me
show.
the
So
body.
and they definitely gonna get one. Do you think that not Kanan, do you think that Famous, even though you said that they we don't really need him anymore, do you think he's going to make it throughout the rest of the season?
I don't know. I
Hmm.
don't know. With the fact that we haven't seen him lately, like it makes me kind of think the worst, honestly. Yeah. But maybe they're doing this on purpose, and they have some secret
Yeah.
storyline for Famous that we don't know about. So you never know with Power.
So here's the last thing that I'll say about Famous, and then we can move on to some other
Mhm.
scenes that happened. So Famous's real name is Sean.
I've
I
heard of
always got the inclination that he wasn't going to make it really far in the show because I figured something must have happened to him for Kanan to name his son Sean.
I've heard that theory.
Yeah. So I always thought that okay, well, all right, he'll be out of here fairly soon, but I didn't think that he would name him Sean just because he got locked up. But just refresh my memory because maybe I didn't understand what was happening at the end of season 3. Okay, so he got arrested. There was no bail, there was no nothing. They just took him in. It's not that he's in prison. He should just be awaiting trial or something of the sort.
Yeah, I think the feds were like questioning him. They
Yeah.
were trying to get him to flip on Howard or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't even think that he was like on trial or nothing. I just think they was questioning him.
Yeah.
So
So that's
he
why I'm
should
like,
be good.
everybody keeps saying he's in prison. I'm like, he's not in
Yeah,
prison. They just was questioning him.
yeah.
That was it.
They
And
pressing him.
even if they arrested him, they didn't it, there's a bail hearing. There's other things that have to happen in order for this to keep going. But
Yeah,
I'll move on.
but it's Power, like you said, right? Sometimes they just skip through that stuff.
But not something like that, right?
Yeah.
Not for someone that who has been in the show all along. I give them
Yeah.
grace with the finding the parking spots in New York. Wait, where are you from?
I'm from Maryland.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you don't know about the parking out here. Tommy used to have a parking spot in front of his building. That will never happen here. Ever. Ever. First of all, it'll be UPS trucks and FedEx trucks double parked all up and down that block. There's no way Tommy's walking in the building to go shoot up a penthouse. Okay?
That's
All right.
crazy. Mhm.
Now, I was gonna turn it over to you to let us to so that you can talk about Unique's recovery. Are you ready to do that?
Sure, sure.
All right, so I'll turn it over to you, and you can tell us about Unique's storyline. Him crawling up the hill to the phone, to the phone booth.
Yeah, Unique's recovery was very interesting. Obviously, they couldn't take him to a real doctor because of the attack and kind of being paranoid, thinking that they were trying to finish him off. It was interesting that he took him to a vet, and I'm like, so a vet is going to take care of a human's problems? Like, what? Are you serious? You couldn't find some other off the books doctor? Like, okay, whatever. But yeah, we fast forward to that, and seeing Unique's recovery was interesting. Never really seen him like that before, and you can tell like he's not right in the head. And I think Joey Badass kind of spoke about it of how like it's kind of like a CTE thing, but back in the '90s they didn't really know about that. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. They moved through the recovery pretty quick. I mean, we got through it all in one episode. Obviously, it was a moving timelines, but he back now, and it's about to be crazy. I'm really excited to see Joey like just take on this new turn into the character. He's a great actor, so I know he's gonna kill it. I'm not even thinking about it.
Yeah. So okay. So just to give some more detail there, guys. And this is something else that I've seen happen too. So anyone who has had post traumatic brain injuries, there is a personality change, and I actually know someone who this has happened to, right? If you've had a severe brain injury, you don't come out being the same person. Um, it may be hard to remember certain things at first. It changes your personality, whereas maybe you'll be more aggressive, maybe you'll be a little bit more anxious. And I think the doctor did say that. So all of those things I've seen firsthand, and they are true from what I can see and what the doctors told us at the time.
Yep.
Um, but I question why he went to a vet. He went to a vet because they couldn't take him to a hospital. And I think that early gave him some really good advice that you should probably lay low right now because the person who did this to you, you don't know if they are willing to come back and try to take you out again. And your advantage here is the advantage of surprise. So you can literally lay in the shadows and, like he did, and see what's happening. But what we did see when he was laying in the shadows, when he came back, he was jumping to all of the wrong conclusions, honey. Just all of the wrong conclusions. And even though Early is the one that puts a bug in his ear saying, oh, maybe somebody put your brother up to this. And I was like, now, why the hell would you tell him that? Now,
Try to get his
now
money.
why would you say that? Because
Yeah.
now he got this in his head. And he's like, oh, Rock did this to all of the guys that she ever dated. And this is where Early comes in and is like, wait. Y'all wasn't even dealing with each other like that, honey. Chill out.
Yeah.
Y'all wasn't on that type of time. Now here he come. He listing off the names. It was Def Con. It was High Post. And now she's trying to do the same shit to me. Bro, y'all was together for 1, 2 nights. Chill out.
Yeah, bruh.
Chill out. Don't you remember that you was the one that cheated on your girlfriend with Rock? And then your brother, because he's upset about how you are letting Rock play with your mind, then dry snitches or really snitches on you to Pernessa, and
Mhm.
then comes and you confront him about it because the brain injury. I'm guessing you forgetting this part, and then y'all got into a fight. Rock had nothing to do with this.
Literally.
Nothing to do with this. She
No,
don't know
but
nothing about this.
to make
I'm
a
listening.
point to that, he did kind of mention how like Rock took his territory and his spot in the business. So from
Mhm.
his perspective, I can see how like he's like, well, you said you wasn't in the game no more. Now I'm back. You in the game with my peoples.
What
So
you mean you back? She don't even know you alive.
yeah, yeah, but he
What you
watching from the shadows.
what again? You
Yeah,
watch it from the shadows, right? Think about it this way, right? You in the shadows. They don't know that you're alive. You don't know what Stefano told her or what they said to her because you are no longer found, right?
mm,
Everybody thinks that you are dead. What did you think was going to happen with the drugs? They were just going to
yeah,
leave it there on the street
yeah.
because you ain't come to pick it up? No, they're going to find somebody else. Everybody in this game that we have learned, like, look at this. Everybody is replaceable. Everybody is disposable. Once they
Yep.
heard that you was dead or that there was brain matter, again, he was walking around pretty good for somebody that had brain matter because
Brain
they found
matter.
brain matter at the scene, right?
Yep.
They said they found brain matter at the scene. What did you think that these people were gonna do? You thought that they was gonna hold your spot? You think that there's FMLA for a drug dealer? No, it's not no FMLA or sick time.
Yep.
They will find somebody else. She come to take my spot. I wanted to throw my TV when he was talking about you want to take my spot. Shut your ass up. All righty. So let me see. There is another scene that I want to talk about. So we talk about Unique. Was there anything else with Unique that we should probably bring up? Because I do want to get to Lou. Because I have a question for you there. And then I do have a question for
Uh,
you about the abortion.
okay. I think that's all as far as unique. We didn't really get that much. Just him watching in the shadows the majority of the time. It was that one scene where he tried to pull up on Lou, but that one woman walked out.
Oh, we're gonna
Yeah.
get to that. So don't jump ahead too much. But we are gonna get to that. So we talked about grandfather Elijah. We talked about all of those storylines coming in and people giving their perspective on their grandfather. But I do want to talk about Lou for a little bit because when we get to the end of making predictions, I have some staunch predictions about what's gonna happen
Mm.
to the Thomas family.
Okay.
But
Okay.
so remember, we're 3 months back and we're starting to see the beginning stages of Lou spiraling out, right? Before we even see him go cry to Scrap's mom, or before we see him end up in rehab, and before we see, I own you, right? Before we see all of that, right? We see a pop up from Jess.
Yep.
Do you think that her popping up may have sent him into an additional spiral? So we know all the things that he was contending with, killing Scrap, not being able to get out of the business, feeling like he's under Rock's thumb. and not having control over his own life and pretty much being the baby. Do you think that him seeing Jessica and her having a good life and looking good and being out in California and able to fulfill her dreams of being in the music industry, do you think that that's what made him start to spiral even more?
Yeah, I definitely think that's like half of it. I think the other half
Mm.
of it is just her seeing him like that. You know what I mean? As a grown man to like not be in your shit, you're in your 40s and you're spiraling out. I feel like he was
So
probably
Lou
just
isn't that
embarrassed.
old yet. Remember, Lou is not that old. Lou is younger. You
Oh
was
yeah, yeah, he's young. Yeah,
so he's probably maybe he's almost 30 at this point.
yeah. I mean, but even still, just being grown and then like seeing someone that you haven't seen in a minute, you like you want to be in the position where you look like you're doing well. But it's kind of the opposite. You're kind of going through the worst times of your life, and then seeing someone that you may have loved or been in love with
Mhm.
doing everything that you dream of, literally in the same business, like I'd be salty too. And you drinking and stuff, so you know it hits a little bit harder. Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like that was the worst person he could have seen, like in
Mm.
that moment of time. Like, damn, I gotta show my face to you. Like, I'm messed up right now.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, damn, I gotta see my ex. I'm in here sweeping and putting up bar chairs. I mean, but to but to be fair, it was his open night. It was his
Yeah.
idea, and I'm pretty sure she has background knowledge of because she did mention Crown, what happened to Crown, and they weren't able to find who killed him yet. Excuse me,
Mhm.
and she knows that her brother just performed at the open mic, which is I'm guessing why she's there. She said she hadn't told family that she was in town, but she knew where to find him. Sometimes, even though the '90s was a while ago, Miss Ma'am, you couldn't have called him. He had a beeper. You could have beeped him. You could have
Yeah.
paged him. You could have said something like, "Hey, I'm in town. Is it okay if I stop by?" You don't just pop up on people like that. And she knew how he was.
Mhm.
Like, why would you do? Why would you do that? But I do think that she is the contributing factor for why he started to go even more to an abyss of depression and sadness because he wanted a life for himself outside of this. He was tired of killing people, and last night when we were talking with the shade room, you know, I came to the realization like that him killing D Wiz, that took a larger toll on him than we ever could have imagined. He really
Yep.
did not want to do that.
Yep.
And maybe we just took it too lightly and brushed it off when it happened in season one, but that shit has been lingering with him for like the past three seasons, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard for him to come out of it. And then on top of that, he had to kill Crown, but he had to kill Crown because Crown was just ridiculous, and he
Mouthing
had to
off.
go. He had to go, but
Yep.
but on top of all of that, having your sister say "I own you," and he already felt powerless. He already felt as though things weren't going his way. I think bumping into someone, as we saw him bumping into Jess or her approaching him, we then see him come outside in a drunken stupor and getting ready to drive. These are his words: drive his car into a tree. And
Mm.
if the lady who owned the bar, I'm forgetting her, I didn't write her name in my notes, but I'm forgetting her name right now. If she didn't come outside and get him, I don't think there would be any more Lulu, right?
Facts. Done.
Ah, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Alcohol, something different.
Something different. This isn't a health podcast, but I recently read an article that they want to start putting Surgeon General warnings on alcohol bottles because of its link to cancer. And I'm like, people should have seen this from a long time ago. Like, why would we have to put a Surgeon General warning on a cancer
Yeah.
on a liquor bottle for you to know that? Like, of course it's linked to cancer. It's alcohol.
They just don't care. They don't care.
They don't care. But
Yeah.
I'm sad to see the progression of his depression. It breaks my heart to see what's happening to him. But I'm glad that his sister stepped in and swooped in and tried to save the day and put him in rehab. But when he was talking to Kanan, did he, just so that I know that I'm not crazy. This is him the 3 months prior, right? It's not present because did you notice his face looked puffy? Like he looked like what happens to people who are suffering with alcoholism. Like their face looks puffy, they're not as clean shaven as they used to be. He still was dressed nice, but
Yeah,
he looked really down, right? But that was the 3 months prior, right? Not currently.
yeah.
Okay, alrighty. I just wanted to make sure. Alrighty, so we talked about Lou. I do want to talk about the abortion thing with you. There was something that Rock said, and I want to look up the quote because I have it in my notes. She said something along the lines of she thinks she could have been able to love Unique when
Mm.
she's in the car with Jukebox and she's saying to, like she's trying to get it out of Jukebox because she wants her to talk to her. And she's trying to say to her, how do you feel about me doing this? And I'm like, well, that's kind of an open conversation to have with your niece.
Fact. I was like, yo, what? Why you asking her for?
Yeah. But their relationship is different and they are the
Yeah.
only two women or two girls or two women in the family. So it's not like she's going to go talk to her mom about this. So the only
Mm.
closest person that she has to her who isn't mad at her at this moment, surprisingly, is Jukebox. I'm actually pretty surprised that Jukebox isn't mad at her because her mama got killed right in her doorway and I'm like I'm surprised she's not blaming her for that. Like what type of mess do you bring to our family that someone is shooting up your house again? Like
Yeah.
every season somebody is shooting at Rock. There was a shooter there's a shootout at her house. Everybody knows where she lives. They drop scrap off at her door. They just
Mm.
doing too much. But she says, just to bring it back to what I was initially asking, do you think that there's a world where a character like Rock could love Unique?
I mean, based off what we've seen so far from her in the 3 seasons, I just don't think so. Because
Huh.
one of the main reasons why she broke off her thing with Unique is because she wanted to focus on her relationship with her son. And we
Mm.
know how much she loves Kanan, so like you got to pick between one of the two. You know what I mean? The idea that you're gonna love a dude who you were just trying to kill this man, like, like, like I said this on the video earlier today. I was like, you were literally just trying to kill him, and he was trying to kill you, and he put your family in danger. Now you're saying that you could love him, and then some people brought up, oh well, he saved her in that little blah blah blah. Don't matter. Like it's the game. You know what I mean? Like bygones be bygones, but love. I thought it was a 1 2 night stand. I didn't know that it was that serious.
Me either. I was
Yeah,
surprised. I was like,
I was like, what? This ain't rock talking. Nah, this is a clone.
so,
The clone.
so okay. So here's my thoughts on that. Um, there's something that I heard Joey Badass say in an interview where they didn't ask this question, but he answered it. He literally had an answer for the question that I'm asking, and he says, "I believe that they saw each other, and because they see each other and they see what each other is doing, that's how they were able to come together.
Hmm.
But it is for that reason why I think they would never work. He's not someone that is like Lou or Marvin, whereas he is going to take direction and take the bullying that Rock does because he
Hmm.
is a bully himself. Sometimes when two people are bullies, there can be a meeting of the minds, but one person will always have to succumb. There's always going to have to be some sort of compromise in order for it to work. And I just don't see that happening for them. I think that they will always butt heads, and because there will always be lies between them. They'll probably always have to keep something from the other because they both are in their alpha moment. And I don't know that I ever see Rock being submissive to
Absolutely
him.
not.
And I just, yeah, I just don't see it. I don't see her being Pernessa, whereas she'll wait for him to come home and she feels like you can't ask me questions because I'm making all the money and I'm doing whatever I want to do and I'm taking care of all of this stuff. Like there's nothing that I hate more when I see a man say, "Oh well, I paid for all of this shit you got in here, so you can't ask me no questions." Burn all that shit and throw it out, right? But Pernessa is willing to be like, okay, like even if she may protest for a little bit, she's just gonna be like, okay, all right, I have a nice life. Let me just sit down and shut up. Rock is gonna burn that shit to the ground, and then she's gonna kill you after she's done,
Yep.
right? And I
Hmm.
just don't see her being able to give him that deference because he's someone that wants it, and so is she. Now, love, depending on how we characterize it and how we define it, maybe her version of love looks different than what mine would be or what yours would be. So
Definitely.
maybe her love is similar to someone just being a protective figure, the way how we see her for Kanan. And could she have been able to do that? Possibly. But I don't know if Unique would have let her be able to do that.
I
Make
agree.
sense? Oh, I love it. I love when people
Yeah.
agree with me.
Yeah,
I
because
don't
when
gotta
you have
fight
two
all day for my
alphas,
life.
I just feel like when you have two alphas like that, like both people want to be the big dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I just
Mm-hmm.
don't, I definitely don't see Rock. Like I see Unique being that before I see Rock. Rock not, she's not going for none of that.
None of
You
it.
know what I mean? Like none of it.
Right. So do you think that she made a hasty decision in getting rid of the baby? Excuse me.
Nah, I think she made the right decision because she's in the game. Like you're not in a position where like you already have a problem handling this kid. You know what I mean? To now bring another child into the picture, that's like you're already dealing with so much. You know, and then the father's not around. Are you gonna tell your brother and your brothers who the father is? Like, there's so much that you gotta hide. It's more secrets. Like, I feel like that was the smartest thing to do. Now, if Unique was alive, maybe if she knew he was alive and they were in communication, maybe things could have been different. But based off what she knew, nah, they gotta go. Gotta go.
So I've been thinking about it, and to be fair, guys, I'm gonna be very transparent. I literally just watched the episode, but I did think about what it would look like if she did keep it. I was kind of not taken aback that she did it so quickly because that's just her personality. I know that when she
Mhm.
makes her mind up about something, it's just gonna happen. We've seen her do it time and time and time again. Um, but I wonder if her having another baby would have given her a fresh start, would have given her the opportunity to raise a child out of the life, whereas they don't have to contend with who their father is, if their dad is a cop, or if their mother is a drug dealer, and how she's going to raise them in a life that could get her possibly killed. I wondered if that would have been her out. It would have been her get out of jail free card and just get away from everything. But then I realized that that's not what she wants to do. She wants to be a queen pin. She wants to have this life. And she's not going to let anything stop her. Not a baby, not a man, not a dead man, not a cop,
Mhm.
not anyone. So she's going to keep doing it. But I did kind of wish for a second that she would have at least thought about it. But once I saw her go into the office with the therapist, I was like, "Oh, this was a done deal before it even happened,
Yep.
honey."
Yep.
she was good. She was going to the shop before it even happened. There was
Yeah.
no question about it. And then we get the revelation that this is not her first rodeo with this. And she had Kanan at a young age, and we know that she was dealing with Malcolm or Detective Howard, who was an officer at the time, and she was what 16, 17 when she had Kanan, and she said she was pregnant earlier than that. So there was
That's
a
crazy.
lot of grooming happening with Rock,
Hmm.
and it kind of makes me sad to hear her story. I- like I know all the time when I'm on the show, I always talk about Jukebox and how it's just a tragedy what her story is, right? But when I think about Rock, she just buries everything. She doesn't even linger in it for a little bit. She just straightens her back and keeps going. And it just she doesn't have time to feel sorry for herself. She doesn't have time to show emotion. She doesn't have time for a baby. And babies require a lot of that of you. And she's just like, mm-mm. No.
Yeah.
No.
I think that's why a lot of people like her character so much because they feel like they resonate with that mindset of like I don't got time to grieve. Like it's one
Mm.
thing after another. When you're living that life, I feel like as a woman especially, like there's no time for you to to contemplate. Like you got to watch your son, you're in charge of the family, you got to watch your brothers, you got to watch the business. Like she has to be like that. And I think that's why eventually she's gonna break sometime this season. Like remember you seeing that scene of her crying? It's going. She's gonna break eventually. It's gonna happen.
Well, you thinking this season? I was with you.
Yeah.
I don't think she's gonna break this season. I think next season she gonna have to break because what
Yeah.
else is there for her to do? How much more loss? How much of this can she withstand? There has to be a breaking point. I agree, but I don't know if it's gonna happen this season. I think something would have to happen to Kanan in order for her to break because otherwise, like she is, or to one of her brothers, because we
Or her
do
mom.
realize. Hmm.
Yeah, they low key foreshadowing it, man. They
Low key, low
foreshadowing
key, low key. Let me
it.
see. I'm trying to think. There was something else that I wanted to mention before we start getting to our final thoughts and our conclusion. But let me see, because I do want you to make some predictions for me. Let me just look through my notes to make sure that we're all okay here. Oh, I love that they brought back Omar Epps. I love that. I wasn't ready for him to go, so
Me
I'm
neither.
glad that we got to see him again. I'm glad that, that they were able to like give some more clarity to some of the scenes that were happening. But there's one scene that I did have a question about, and then we can go into our predictions for the season. When he was sitting at his desk and he saw Rock at the vending machine, do you think at that moment she knew I gotta kill him?
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Absolutely. And he even knew. He even was looking at her like they got me, man. Like I'm on fire in here. And I think even before then she kind of knew because he kept hitting that. Oh, we need to pin it on Marvin. We need to pin it on bro. She's not about to pick you over her brother. Like you're
Yeah,
tripping.
that is, listen, if he ever
Like,
put a
what?
nail in his coffin, that was
Yeah,
it. Like
yeah.
him trying to tell Kanan I'm your daddy, that was bad, right? Because she already told you, shut your fucking mouth, right? She already told you, shut up, right? But pinning it on her brother, I was like,
Crazy
oh,
work.
like she about
Yeah.
to pack your ass up and you don't even know it.
I was
But
upset
yeah.
about that low key too, because like I really like Omar Epps. Like he's a great actor. He brought a lot to the show. For them to just
Mm-mm.
kill him just like that, I was shocked. I didn't think they was gonna do him that early. Yeah.
And then it's like, you see this shit?
Perfect
That's how
lie
I
to
felt. I'm
go
like,
out.
can you believe
Yeah.
this? That's how you want to go out.
Yeah. Oh
But
man.
alrighty. So I'm trying to think. Do we have any? Oh, the last thing that I'll bring up because we did talk about Lou and Marvin talking about their dad, but that scene with Patina talking to Kanan, we did mention it earlier, but she looks so pretty in that scene. Oh my God, she looks
Always.
gorgeous
That's my that's
always.
my little that's my little boo.
That's your boo thing.
That's my little boo
don't
thing.
don't tell Gianni though. Don't tell Gianni.
Hey, you better back off. I'm going to war for that.
Go to war. All
Yeah.
righty. So tell me, I need some predictions from you this for this season. I'll let you go
Mhm.
first so that I won't color your opinion of things that I think that are gonna happen. Um, Make some predictions for me. I don't know if you want me to ask you about certain people or do you have like a list of things that you think is going to happen. We have like 5 minutes. But you have 2 minutes and I'll take two.
Yeah, so I think they kind of foreshadow it. I feel like, but I feel like Kanan obviously going to go into business with Rock. They're going to be working together. But I feel like he's just going to
I
just
don't like that.
betray. Yeah, yeah, I don't either. Mother and son business. I don't like it. But I feel like he's going to betray her, like
Mm.
for real this time, because you kind of see the scenes with him going behind her back, meeting with Stefano. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of weird. Like your mom is the top dog. You going behind to her connect is mad wild. Um, I also feel like something's gonna go wrong with this whole Marvin Stefano thing. I feel like they're not just showing us this for no reason. Marvin's gonna mess up somehow. He's gonna do something wrong, and it's
He
gonna
never misses an opportunity to miss an
never,
opportunity.
ever. Uh, yeah, and I feel like Lou about to bounce back this season. I feel like everybody been hating, saying he gonna die. I feel like he gonna bounce back and be the old Lou again. Just give my boy some time. You think he going out?
You got any more predictions before I start answering?
And I think Jukebox will catch her first body. I think this the season where she's gonna like really step into the game like that. Be forced to step into the family business because things are about to heat up.
Okay. So, a first prediction I'll make is I think they're gonna pack Famous up. Famous is out of here. He is like the writing is on the wall. They are gonna pack Shorty up. I have been predicting that Lou is gonna die since season one. Like they have foreshadowed his death so many times. There's only but so many lives that this man can still have. He done been in a fire. He done been he done threatened to kill himself. He tried to kill. Listen, tried to kill himself. Like they have been foreshadowing his death for season after season after season, and I don't know if he's going to make it out of this one.
Mm,
Um, Mainly because I don't see how much more saving he can get after rehab. I think that this is his final straw. If he doesn't get his act together, like you say, if he doesn't come back to his heyday or his glory days, I think that there is no more story to be told for Lou. I think that's it. Marvin definitely gonna fuck up this Stefano situation. He is going to mess this up. And
mhm.
the way how I think that they're gonna mess it up is one, that little line he said about rock don't run me, or that's not the exact quote, but I'm my own man. She gonna
Yep.
find out and she gonna clip this and it's gonna blow up in his face when she finds out that he messed up something that ends up going back on her because of Stefano. So yeah, that's he's gonna mess this up. But he's not gonna die. He'll be around. Um we didn't see Snacks and Pops this episode, so I'm wondering what they have going on. Unique, I think that I don't know if Unique makes it to season 5.
Mm.
Only because he can't be coming after Rock time after time after time again, and she's not gonna blow his head off. Like it's just if he makes it to season 5, it's because they reconciled and she explains it to him. And we know in Power that they never ever get to tell their side of the story. And if they do, like Spanky, it's already too late. If you're getting to tell me what you were thinking, that means that you about to die.
Mm.
That it's over for you. Um, I don't know if the grandmother is gonna make it, only because of the cancer prognosis diagnosis that we heard about. And who else? Who else? Who else? Obviously we know that Kanan and Juke make it out, but I hope that we get to keep Juke's innocence in terms of not being in the family business for another season. I
Mm.
really do. That may not be the best prediction because her trajectory doesn't look like it's going that way. I do think that I thought we heard that she did go to the army for a little bit before becoming a police officer, but I may need to refresh and go back to Power. But I thought that's what they said about her. But if I'm wrong, you guys can correct me in the comments. But I believe that that's what happened. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you, Mr. Power Universe. I hope that everyone, I didn't get to ask you about Courtney Kemp because I meant to mention this in the news.
Hey, we
But
gotta talk about
I
that,
specifically stayed away from it. But hopefully you can come back on with me because I do want to talk about Courtney's new show that's going to be coming out on Netflix. We've been
bro.
waiting for this for years, and we've been waiting for new material from her for a very long time.
Yep.
Um, but just to give y'all a clue so y'all can go check out Mr. Power Universe's content, he said that Courtney messed up Power. So I'll leave you guys on that note. Please,
It's a
if
fact.
you liked this episode, please leave a review for me. Definitely give us a rating and definitely subscribe to us on YouTube and on Apple, on Spotify. You can hit us up at Chronicles of Power or me at Kimi Cakes on IG. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you,
Peace.
Mr. Power Universe.